I thought for a moment I might get away without having to come up here. Oh, so thank you for all the ways that I'm being honored this evening. Thanks especially to Harold and to Barry, to Aria, and to the team that pulled this evening together. Thanks to all of you who are here tonight. Thanks to those who couldn't be here. Thanks to all of those who are no longer with us and helped build this place. So I don't want to speak long, but I do want to struggle with finding the words to say what tonight and these 24 years have meant to me. To tell you just how blessed I feel, how incredibly blessed. I realize that for 24 years, which is almost exactly half of my working life, I calculate that's 8,760 plus days and nights I've been in this job. And it is the best job in New Hampshire. I love this job now every bit as much as I loved it the day I walked in the door. I've lost none of my passion for it. In fact, indeed, how many people do you know who get to stay on to be their own interim director? At least I don't have to worry that the new guy is going to say bad things about the old guy. You know, there's some pluses. And the older, I realize that the older I get, the more I've come to understand just how much place means to me. The times in my life which have most shaped me, which have meant the most to me, have been rooted in a particular place. And what makes this the best job in New Hampshire is that it is all about New Hampshire. It is how we take care of business. It's at the core of our collective lives. You've heard me say often, but it bears repeating, that there's no other nation in the world that entrusts so much of its most important work to the volunteered time of people, their money, their energy, their ideas. There's never been another nation in history that's done this. And if this is true for this country as a whole, it is especially true for this state. By design, and I've said this before, we have probably the weakest state government in the country. And by saying this, I don't impugn John Lynch, nor Governor Sununu, or any of the other 6 governors in between with whom I've worked. On the contrary, it's taken extraordinary skill by each of them to lead this state. That's, if you don't believe it's an oxymoron to say that New Hampshire people can be led. But to a degree unknown among the world's developed nations, and even in most other states, New Hampshire entrusts much of our most important work to our citizens in a way that's highly decentralized, volunteer, community-based. And in this room tonight are people who are the core of how we do business in New Hampshire, how we meet our collective obligations, how we care for one another. Don't get me wrong, I'm not lionizing this as perfect. This system has lots of flaws, and it's not an unalloyed good. This job has given me the chance to register my complaints and speak out, and occasionally, as people have alluded to it tonight, I got in trouble for doing it. But it is our way. It's the New Hampshire way. And I will say that 36 years living in New Hampshire have taught this New York City, big spending, big government Democrat that there could be some other ways to do things, to do business. I'm not persuaded, Joe, not completely, but I learned something. But from my days in Mississippi, what I remember most was the local frame. Marvin Poe, you'll remember this. I does where I am. I does where I am. This job is rooted in New Hampshire in every sense of the word, in every town, every city in the state, in every community, in every one of what Steve Taylor calls our 235 sugar bush republics. We are New Hampshire. None of us do this alone. We've done it together, not compelled by law, but drawn by some common obligation to one another. Harold, picking up the notion of bridges, we've bridged our differences between Republicans and Democrats, between natives and newcomers, between the North Country and the Seacoast, between the cities and the towns, where differences in class and wealth in this state make less of a difference than any other state in the country. The only place where we have trouble bridging is to admit Yankee fans. That stigma still holds. Paul Boffinger taught me that he who plants trees loves others more than self. Maya Angelou put it, nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. And as you enter the charitable foundation, many of you have seen on the wall and in the doorway the words of Woodrow Wilson, nations are renewed from the bottom, not the top. And my own Jewish roots teach me that all of us are responsible, only I more so. And finally, the words of Maxine Kumin, our own Maxine Kumin, love, we are a small pond. Love, we are a small pond. So I had almost nothing to do with tonight's program. The planning group did at the beginning give me a chance to say what were the things I cared about that I'd most like to have, and I said no speeches and no long speeches, Harold. Dark chocolate for everybody, and I see that's there, and that we sing together, and I got to specify one song, and that one song is Stand By Me, and I see in the program we're going to do that next. So I'm going to stop. For 24 years, you've all stood by me. And by one another, and we've stood together. And now we face tough times, ragged, scary. If you're not uneasy, you're not paying attention. But even more than the force of law, I put my trust in our shared bonds here in New Hampshire to get us through these times. The ways of the heart, the shared ruts of our history, the learned patterns of our lives, the unconscious, informal, bone-deep New Hampshire ways in which we take care of business and one another. There's no place I'd rather be, no place I'd rather have been, and no one else with whom I'd rather have been than you. Thank you. Stay with me, baby.